So here's what we're going to cover today: goals, process. We're going to do a demo through, and we're going to set some expectations, and we'll follow up with the Q&A section. So the goal for bug analysis is for every bug fixed in one service pack to be ported and fixed into the future OS. For example, if you have a XPSP2 bug, then you want to fix it in Server 2003 and Longhorn. And if you have a W2K bug, we want to fix it in XPSP2 and Server 2003 and Longhorn. The reason we want to do this is if a customer finds a bug in XP, later on if they upgrade to Server 2003, if that bug is not fixed, then the customer is likely to gonna complain about seeing a regression when upgrading from XP and Server 2003. And same thing for W2K. If they find a bug in W2K SP5, we want to make sure that it's fixed in XPSP, Server 2003, and Longhorn. So currently, our process mainly focus on forward porting. So making sure the current OS bugs fixes get fixed in the future OS. We do not currently focus on back porting unless it's a very critical fix. Okay. And another goal we're trying to achieve here is to make sure that we have test coverage for bugs that we found and fixed. And also to make sure that the core team knows about the new test case we have added and make sure they have the same coverage in the Server 2003 and Longhorn OS test pass. So Jet briefly described the process to you guys. So when a tester finds a bug in a product, for example XPSP2, he's going to file a bug. Or if a customer finds an issue, CPR is going to file a bug against the OS. So the dev will investigate the fix and provide a private for the tester to test. If the private seems to be okay and fixes the problem, then the dev will have to go through they have to fill in a template called dev template, which will ask question on what's the real problem of this code, and what's the fix, and any other components that gets affected. They're going to fill that template, and that template is going to be pasted into Product Studio of that bug. So so tests will have to make sure that within the Product Studio bug, it does contain all the information necessary, and they also have to identify whether it's necessary to create new test cases and so on. So the next step would be for a test to open bugs against future OS, for example, Server 2003 and Longhorn. So currently, our process will automatically create auto-port the bugs into future OS most of the time. So if this is the case, then the tester will have to ensure that this is properly done by our automation. So after creating the new bugs, test will have to update the current test plans. So depending on your component, so some test plan exists in a website, some exist in a spreadsheet, but most of them are stored in Source Depot, checked in this Source Depot. So you have to update the test plan and also implement the new test case. So, and the final thing is to make sure the test template is filled and pasted into the bug. I'm going to cover the test template a little bit more. So here's what the test team should do. They have to make sure the bug contains the appropriate repro steps. And also, they have to set up the repro for the developer to look into the problem. Because sometimes if it's a customer bug, the developer doesn't have access to the customer's machine. So we have to set up a repro in-house. So also, once the dev has provided a fix, it's the tester's responsibility to understand what the changes to the code is and if possible, identify any possible flaw in that fix. And then he has to open a bug against future OS. And also, as part of the test template, we have to analyze why didn't we catch this problem in the first place. For example, if it's we simply didn't run the test case, or is it that it requires specific hardware that WinSE doesn't have. So, and the next final step is to update the test plan and new test case and check it into the source depot. So within the test template, it's going to ask you a few questions. Why was the bug missed? So as I explained earlier, it would be analysis of why was the bug missed. So hardware or resource, or somebody didn't look into the results, and so on, or time constraint. So, and then the next step would be the exact steps used to verify all the issues around the fix for this bug. So the tester should list out each step that they took to verify that the bug no longer exists in the service pack that contains the fix. This is a little bit different from repro steps. Repro steps is the steps you take to reproduce a problem. And the step verification steps would be the steps you take to verify that the problem is no longer in the OS. We also want you to enter the path, source depot path, for your updated test plan and test tools. And you also want to identify any additional components affected by the fix. For example, if you fix a UI binary, so maybe Notepad is affected, so you have to identify, list out all the components affected, and also notify the other components so they can take the appropriate action. So in times, the bug that you perform bug analysis for would be a QFE hotfix provided to a customer. So we would have to ask you whether you have verified the QFE package itself instead of just the fix in the service pack, and also provide a checksum of that package and the path where you install the package from, just to make sure that the customer is getting what we have tested in-house. Okay, I should do a demo here. So the main website to bug analysis is http://WinSE-bugs. This is the main page. And from here you can get to all sorts of reports and so on. So if we click reports, it's going to open up this page, which contains various reports. We're mainly interested. Okay, so getting back to the demo. So WinSE-bugs would be your front page to the bug analysis process. So within here, you can access all the reports and fill in the test template, and so on, and also port your bugs to the future OS. So if you click on reports, this is the page that loads up, and you're mostly interested in the summary by area, sub-area, and feature report, and perhaps the summary by area. So once we click on the summary by area, sub-area, and feature, this is the report that's going to show up. So this lists out a whole list of components and the status it is currently at within the XPSP2 milestone. The first column would be done. That means bug analysis has been completed. The second column is not done, which is bug analysis has only been partially completed or not completed at all. And this is the total number of bugs within that component and an overall status. So if I just pick an example, click Performance Monitor and PDH, this is the report that this is going to load up. So within this report, you're going to find information on the bug number for XPSP2 and the bug analysis status, which is represented by the traffic light over here. Also, you'll find information on the bugs for future OS, for example, Server 2003 or Longhorn, Server 2003 SP, the test bug if it's necessary, and the test template field, whether the test template has been completed. So let me take one of the bugs that has been. So this is the test template that we want testers to fill out. The first question again, why was this bug missed? You'll see a drop-down with different selection choices. For example, test hole, is it a security related or interrupt issue, or somewhere down below, special hardware needed, and so on. So depending on your bug, select the appropriate reason why this bug is missed. This is the box where you list out the steps you took to verify this bug. And this would be the place where you enter the source depot path of your updated test plan and test tools. In the case that your component has manual test case testing, you at least need to update the test plan with manual tests. And you'll have to list out the additional component that is affected by this change in the binary. And this is the path. This is where you enter the path for the QFE packages. This is a QFE bug. And if a bug has already been created by somebody else in Longhorn or Server 2003 SP, and if you know the bug number already, you can go ahead and fill the bug number in to these places. And in the case where it is not necessary to file a bug in the future OS, for example, there's a major change in the component for Longhorn, and also maybe the code path has been rewritten, you can put down 0, but you have to provide a good comment on why this is missed. I mean, not why this is not necessary to be filed in future OS. This page tries to limit the type of words you enter in the comments. For example, NA or not applicable or null or these kind of words. This page will not allow it. So you have to enter a good reason, a meaningful reason. Same thing for Server SP. For test bug, usually this can be done by the auto port tool, which is here. So going back to this page, if you entered a Server 2003 bug number, it's going to show up in this column here, and the Server SP will show up in this column. So in the case that you don't know the bug number for the future OS, what you can do is click on auto port, and then select the bug that you want this tool to open for you automatically. For example, Server 2003 SP, or maybe even Longhorn. And together with this, you can also open a test bug to make sure that you have a bug against your test plan and test tool. So you can work against that bug to make sure that it's fixed, your test tool is fixed. So once you've selected what bug you want to open, you want to make sure that the area component and subcomponent is correct. And then click on Port Bugs. This will create the bugs in the Product Studio database and also fill in these columns automatically. Once you have all the information together with the test template questions, this test template filled column is going to show up as yes as well. And then this traffic light over here will turn green. And if once it's turned green, this is the whole process for your bug analysis. So, and also, we're currently working on a new version of test template. So moving away from this web form and integrating it into the Product Studio itself. So currently this is in beta, so if you go to Product Studio, you're not going to be seeing this tab. But this is a test database, and if we set it to active, you'll be required to fill in this pretty much the same information. So this is why missed. This is the why missed question, and then the test source path, the future OS bug ID. Or if it's 0, enter a reason. So it doesn't exactly look like the web-based test template for now, but we're working in making final changes to this tab. So in the future, once you have a real bug, this test follow-up tab will automatically be there. So this is the next version. Maybe we're looking at 1 or 2 months. So this is expectations for the team. We want testers to ensure data accuracy for tests. So make sure all the data entered in test template is not bogus. We try to monitor, but there are so many bugs, so we can't monitor each one of those. So make sure it's filled in correctly. And we also need to make sure that each bug fix gets ported to future OS. So you should probably talk to the lead of that component in WinSE and have them make sure that the future OS bug doesn't exist. And also work with lead to get the core to fix the bug. Sometimes the core team try to push back, so depending on the type of bugs, it is necessary to push back to make sure that the bug gets fixed. Otherwise, this will cause a regression in the future OS. And we also have to mark bugs in the core Product Studio database correctly, even if it is backport. So in the Longhorn Product Studio and Server 2003 SP Product Studio, there are a few fields that you need to make sure it's filled in correctly. The tags field, and the tags field would be one of them. So before you enter the corresponding bug number in the test template, make sure the future OS bug has the tags field filled in. We need to fill it in with accepted in SP keyword. Otherwise, test template is not going to take in that bug. So the final thing is make sure test hosts are covered correctly, updating test plans, and adding new test implementation. So Alok is going to talk about regression tracking. We'll do it after the...
Hi Alok. Karl just talked about what do you need to do if you have normal bug. He explained the whole idea of why do we do all this bug analysis, just to avoid doing the same mistakes over and over again. But there are some mistakes like regressions which are really bad. So historically, like if we fix 100 bugs, we cause like 15 to 20% of regressions in the bugs. So we end up fixing them again. And the problem with regressions is the customers have already received those bugs as a KFE or in part of some other roll-up package. That really hurts Microsoft image. So we try to do to reduce the regression rate. So we have a separate process to keep track of regressions. So we call it regression tracking. So first of all, let me define what is a regression. So regression is any break of functionality which is from any fix we did in a service pack or any other release. So for example, if a bug existed when we released OS, that is not considered as a regression. That is a normal bug fix. That's what normally customer report as, oh, this feature was never working in operating system, why don't you fix it? So those bugs are normal bugs. But what happens in terms when we're fixing the bugs, we introduce some other bugs. That means break in some other component or within the same component. We call those as regressions. So regression is any break in functionality due to a previous fix you did in the same OS. But if it goes across platforms, it's not considered as a regression. So for example, there's another term used in regression called from down level operating system. So what happens is you fix a bug in, let's say, Win2K or NT4, and the same bug exists in XP or Server 2003. So during bug analysis process, actually you fill the bug numbers for platforms above it so that they fix in all the platforms. But those bugs are not necessarily considered as regressions because those were there when the product RTM'd also. So first step when we look for a bug, we say, okay, is it a regression or not? So in Product Studio, we have a separate field called regression. So we may say yes, no, or from down level OS, or from it's a, and then we have also a category called yes SP only and yes KFE refresh. So this might be really confusing for some people who don't understand how this process works. So for the bugs which are marked yes SP only, that means the regression which was introduced is not severe enough that we want to call back all the customers and say, hey, if you have a bad regression, you need to apply a new patch to be in the good state. So we mark those bugs as yes SP only. For the bugs which are really bad, for example, you do some fix and you apply the fix and it blue screens in some special scenarios. Probably we want to call those customers who have those fix, tell hey, you want to apply the new patch because it will blue screen your server sometime or the later. So those bugs we marked as yes KFE refresh. That means you have to look back and see what all KFEs has gone with this bad fix. So once we find a bug which you think is a regression, we always open a new bug for it. We don't reactivate the old bug which you think is caused a regression. We file a new bug saying that this is a regression from the old bug. To say it's a regression from old bug, we have two things. First of all, say regression is yes, and secondly, we have a regress bug field which we mark with the bug number which caused the regression. Many times you would not know the exact bug numbers because you're just working on it and you found that this used to work before, it's not working now. So in that case, you just leave that empty for now or put it 0. Developer, when investigating the fix, would know the exact fix which caused this regression. But at the time of resolution, this field should be marked appropriately, and you should be clear about what is the regress bug. So we fill the regress bug in the Product Studio with that. As soon as we find the regression and you think it's a bad regression, we have another process to make sure that none of the future KFEs which are going to customer for that binary we ship with that regression again. So we block all further KFEs to be shipped to customers till we fix that problem. To do that, we have a website which is linked with this website, WinSE bugs/regressions. You just go there, and then there's another website, WinSE bug/hotfix block. So if you want to block all further KFEs going with that particular binary, we just have an entry there. For now, only WinSE has a rights to put an entry in the block because it blocks KFE production for that binary. So we don't want to just put every binary there as soon as we find the regression. But if we think the regression is bad enough, we put an entry there in WinSE bug/regressions. I'll show you the website, how it looks, and what do we track. Any questions? Okay, that means I can ask you questions. So, this is the master website where we track all the regressions. So since regressions are really bad for us and it really hurts our customer image, so we track them separately, that which component caused so many regressions. And if you have more regression in your component, your review score will get less. So that's how we track it. So this is our master website. So you can see all the regressions there in, for example, Win2K, SP4 component, subcomponent wise. And also there's a hotfix blocking tool. So you can read all the description again here, that so this is our hotfix blocking tool. So here we keep track of all the regressions which are actively there and blocking the KFE production. We review this report each day in board meeting, and so that appropriately devs are working on it and we are not blocking KFE production for a longer time. So if you find a new regression, we simply go to add new regression, enter the bug number which caused the regression, and click next, and it will just add the regression into our database, and we keep on tracking it. Questions? Concerns? So everyone clear what they need to do if they find a regression?
Is it possible for us to show the demo how to go about getting which field? You said you have marked that yes, no, blank. Where exactly do we do all this?
Okay.
So not use product studio or not to these websites.
Okay. So the question is, which fields in Product Studio do we have to mark properly to ensure that we have a regression here? So let me show you Product Studio. So Product Studio normally looks like this, and so you can see this regression field here. This is the regression field where we have from down low LOS. That means it's because of some NT4 or Win2K fix we are fixing it. No means it's not a regression. Yes, KFA refresh, and yes, SP only. And if you are filing a new bug, you have an option of saying don't know. That means you are still in process of determining whether the bug is a regression or not. Sometimes you just say, oh, this is not working, and then you start looking at, okay, does it happen in SP4 also? So normally whenever you find a bug, we look it back in previously released your OS. For example, in XP we look at Service Pack 1 or XP RTM. So whenever you report a bug to any of your WinSE counterpart, the first question they'll ask is, okay, does it happen on SP4 also? So probably it's better idea to just be prepared and say, okay, it doesn't happen on SP4, it does happen on SP4. And the regress bug which I was talking about is this thing. So this is the bug which caused this regression. So this just ties back to the bug which caused the regression. So we know all the data about like how many days did we take to find the regression, who found the regression, did customer we find in testing, all those type of questions we know just by looking at the regress bug. Any other question? Let me, if you have any questions with bug analysis process in general, which Karl presented, like why do we do it, or how, if you have any questions regarding process as such, or what do we need to do. Just to be aware that if you don't do it properly, you receive nasty mails from Karl saying that, okay, you have not done this properly, and then so it's anyways, everyone will have to do this anyways. So let me get back to this slide. Yeah, Vash. So the question is, do we do bug analysis process for all the bugs, irrespective of whether it's found internally or we do only for customer reported bug? Answer is we do for all the bugs currently, because these are the bugs which ship OS with. So first off, they should not be there at the first place when we release the OS. So we do analyze all the bugs irrespective of whether we found it internally in the testing or it's customer reported. Customer reported is still bad, that means we didn't catch in testing anyways. Yeah, one more. So it's the question is that if it's internally found bug, then does it make sense to ask question why the bug was missed? Because it's not missed, you caused it, we caught it. So one of the reasons we have in the test template is that caused by your testing. So you should actually mark that that reason, that why this bug surfaced. So that question is basically not applicable for the bugs which are not found internally, but still we need to update our test plan and file the bugs in the upper level OSs, and that's why we do the complete bug analysis process. But some questions might not apply due to reason. Some of the times the feature itself doesn't exist in for example, if you're working on server component DHCP in WinSE, those feature doesn't exist in XP at all. In that, those are the cases, scenarios in which you just fill 0 because the feature doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So the question is that sometimes regression happens due to some old bug which is already closed. Why do we need to open a new bug? Why not just reactivate the old bug which is already there? The answer to this is if we reactivate the old bugs, it breaks all the processes which we have. So for example, currently we track the days, how many days the developer took to fix this bug. So normally if you reactivate the bug which developer filled like two years back, and you reactivated now fix it back, so it would seem that he took more than 2 years to fix one bug. And this is just not process question, but the other thing is that how do we track the versions of the binary which, for example, which caused the regression and which fix? So if we want to know, okay, what are all bad versions of the binary, let's say at WAPI32.dll, to know that we would not know, okay, these are the first bug which we fixed and this is the last bug which caused, we found the regression. That means we had regression at this much active. So by opening new bug, first of all, it always have the clear ground for the developers and tester to work on, and it also gives us time to analyze the problems more clearly, because regression should not be occurred. And also it would be hard to determine which bug was a regression if we just deactivate the old bug. Yeah. Good question. So the question is this bug analysis a new process, or will there be a backlog of bugs which we need to look at when you guys start doing bug analysis for your components? So answer of the first question is no. The bug analysis process itself very old. We have been doing within WinSE for last 2 years or more than 2 years. But this process has evolved a lot within this time period. So previously we used to do less, then more, and then more, and then more. Regression tracking, for example, itself is like a 9-month-old process. So second question is, do we have backlog of bugs which we'll have to do? For Win2K SP5 or Win2K SP, we don't expect a backlog or a big backlog. It would be minimal because we did complete all the bug analysis when we did SP4. So it would be minimal within SP5 bugs. But for XP SP2, we might have a good amount of backlog because of various reasons, that the core team is handling half of the bug analysis process and they don't do it properly. So we have a whole list of bugs from XP SP2. And second reason is we did fix lots of bugs in XP SP2. So currently the state is that we didn't get time to finish all the bug analysis for all XP SP2 bugs. So we'll have backlogs in XP SP2, but I don't expect much in Win2K. And we don't have to fill this website for NT4, but we do expect that people actively open the bugs for Win2K and server when they find NT4 bugs. So for NT4 bugs, they don't have to go to website and do all these things. Yeah.
Let's say you know that, okay, this particular bug is a result of regression. But how do you go about identifying the original bug that caused this regression?
Yeah, so it's a fairly good question. The question is, so sometimes you know it's a regression, but how do you go about knowing which bug caused that regression? So to answer this question, let me put it this way. So it's really hard sometimes to find out which bug caused regression, and sometimes fairly easy. If your component is very isolated, then you would know, okay, these are the fixes we did previously. You know, or for example, you would know last known good build where this bug doesn't exist. If we are able to nail down the build in which bug doesn't exist and the build in which does exist, then we should be able to find out the build which created the problem. So if we know, okay, this problem did exist in build 5.009 but exists in 5.010, that means it has to be one of the bugs which we fixed in build 10 which has caused this problem. And then we can look at the bug fixes and see which one could likely cause this problem. So, and sometimes we're looking at the check-ins, even then it's hard to know. So 80% of the cases, if you do this exercise, you would be able to find out which bug causes. But 20% of the cases you might not. In that case, you just fill 0 and ask your developer that which bug caused it or why this regression has happened. We did not make any fixes in this component or any major fixes.
Given to this question, that the new tester find the original bug or might be thinking it's a regression, I think it's practically very difficult. So how will we will proceed?
So the question is,
maybe experience can do it easily.
yeah, the question is, looking, for example, whenever you find a bug, it always would seem to you like a regression. So how would you go about determining if it's a regression or not? So simple vanilla check that we do is just install the last sane good release we had. So if it's Win2K, we install Win2K SP4 on separate machine and just test it. If it fails there, then we directly say it's not a regression. And if it passes there, then we directly know it's a regression. So we mark as confidently yes, but we don't know the bug number, which is the harder part to determine. And that is always the harder part if you don't have the enough component architectural knowledge and code base, okay, why this happens or how this happens. So this might be hard part, but you can actually always nail down the bug, build number. For example, you have, this happens in build 10, you could install build 5 and see. So doing a midpoint analysis would actually give you the build number if you do it gracefully. Yeah, but it's actually sometimes the time consuming. For example, if a test runs for 4 hours and then you find a bug, then you need to actually install SP4 build or Win2K SP4 and run the same test. But over time you gain experience. So this test used to pass and this test fails. So yeah, unless you gain that experience, it will take some time. But I think it's time well spent. You would learn more about the component. I see some people don't agree with that. Yeah.
If there is a regression bug because of these two other bugs, then how do we report about these two bugs to those bugs that we solve this regression?
So it's a very good question. The question is, if two of the bugs cause a regression so which one of the two you mark in the product studio? So in 95% of the cases, it's only one bug which caused the regression. So if it is more than one, we just take the last bug which is related to this component and mark it here. So you don't fix two bugs at the same instant. If you do, you can pick any one. But we just pick the later one, whichever was fixed, and mark as a regress bug. Yeah, Kwash? So the question is, when do we open test bugs, and if we do have a test bug, who is supposed to look at it? So let me give you an overview. I don't know if you know about the background of the test bugs. So previously, when we used to do bug analysis, and as a part of bug analysis, we ask a question: did you fix or update your test plan with the repro steps or the bug fix? That how do you repro this bug? Sometimes, and previously, how you used to do this is open a test bug against yourself, and then resolve the bug and close the bug. And sometime later, when you have time, you look at all the test issues and keep on fixing one by one. So Quash's question was, what do we do if we see a test bug, and whom it should be assigned to? So normally test bugs are test holes which should be fixed, and component owner didn't get time to fix the test hole at that time. So it should be fixed by component owner who owns the component at that time. So if you own testing Win2K or NT4 and you are component owner, it's you, because you are the test owner for that component. But with this model, we are getting away with test bugs. So you would not have test bugs at all. With the new tab which you saw in Product Studio, if that is active, that means you have an active test issue which you need to fix. So we won't have any more test bugs as such. If you have, then component owner owns it. Any other question?
So actually, I have two more points to make. Is the bugs won't show up in the bug analysis website until it is resolved as fixed. So if the bug is active, it won't show up. So you can't start the bug analysis process. The other thing is, when the dev resolves a bug, he has to fill in the porting status field correctly. The porting status field will tell our backend script which OS the new bug needs to be ported, and our backend script will go ahead and port the new bugs, mark the porting status field as ported, and also fill in the future OS bug ID numbers in the test template itself. But the tester should still make sure that this is done correctly, because sometimes the developer does not fill in this porting status field correctly.
So is everyone clear about porting status?
Yes.
Sometimes
Right. The question is, how would the tester judge whether the porting status field is filled in correctly. Yeah, this sometimes it's hard to know because, for example, the Longhorn has been rewritten, and so it's not necessary to fill in the new test bug, new OS bugs. So the best thing would be to communicate with the core team.
And in worst case scenario, we just file a bug. Extra file resolved as won't fix doesn't hurt as much as not fixing the bug at all. So if you are really unsure, then you just file a bug and he'll resolve as won't fix or not applicable or something like that. So just to give a recap on porting status, the porting status field means does this bugs needs to be ported to future OSs or not. If it does, we automatically open a boot. So when you go to Bug Analysis website, you would see automatically some bugs filled for you. You don't have to take auto port at all. Yeah, question. So the question is, we fix lots of bugs in service pack or as the time goes on. What's the requirement to fill, or when do we require to fill the bug analysis process that by that time we should be done? So rule of the thumb is we cannot release service pack unless all the bugs are done bug analysis with. So we have to complete the bug analysis at the time of release of service pack. That being said, we do not want to wait for end of the service pack cycle and to see we have 1,000 bugs to do bug analysis on, and we didn't have test tools on. So we require that after 1 month, within the 1 month of fixing or resolving the bug, we should do the bug analysis. So we have 30 days to complete the process after the bug is resolved as fixed. So, assuming there are no more questions, so there are 5 or 10 minutes of break. So if you want to take water or anything, feel free. Next talk will start at 3. Thanks.